Hello, my name is Tim Morgan. I'm the CFP that was hired by both Frank and Madelyn Stuart, who asked me to go over their investment selections for their personal lives. This will be for their personal investments, 401k, possible retirement account for Madelyn, and for a trust that we're going to be setting up for $500,000 for assets that are coming in from Madelyn's parents who have passed on. Personal information for both Madelyn and Frank. Their young age, they're accumulating assets, being the age of 35 years old. As the accumulation assets they are basically going to be investing heavily into basically investment kind of assets such as stocks, mutual funds directly, which are going to be riskier assets. They are familiar with the risk. We will address this in a few moments. They have 32 years until retirement, and as such, they have plenty of time to accumulate these assets and to invest them into the following selections, which we'll be touching upon in a few minutes. The Stewarts have asked me to create their portfolio. They're looking for a 9% after-tax return. They want to be invested mostly into stocks and other types of riskier assets. They are familiar with the risk. And as such, they are savvy enough investors to know that investing into riskier assets, they'll get better returns generally overall, but have a greater chance of losing assets as they go through. In addition, they understand of the large swings both ways, and I have gone over that with them in greater detail. Originally, Frank and Madelyn have asked me to set up their investments as follows. They want 80% into an S&P 500 mutual fund, 10% into a value stock, 5% into corporate bonds, and 5% into a money market account. After reviewing these for their 401k and their investments, I have determined that these investments may not be appropriate for them for the following reasons. The S&P 500 and the value fund, which constitute 90% of their portfolio, generally is going to be the only two equity funds they have. As such, they are going to, especially the S&P 500, any kind of very large swings in the market, especially among large cap stocks, will affect their portfolio greatly. They're not very well diversified in this area. My recommendation, which will be coming up in a few moments, will be going away from less of the S&P and value stocks into other types of equity investments. The 5% corporate bonds, I have also decided were not a good investment, at least for the individual 401k and other retirement assets that Madelyn will be setting up for her small business if she sets them up. We'll be addressing that in a few moments. And lastly, the 5% that's going into the money market, I have determined that is also not a very good investment for them, particularly for a 401k and for the retirement plan that we're setting up for Madelyn, simply because the money market's not going to earn much of a return. In addition, we're setting up a six-month emergency fund that they asked me to set up for them, some of which will be involved in CDs, others into a money market itself. And so in other words, the money market that they have will simply be a duplicated of one that they already have existing. So what we'll do is we're going to change the investments from the 80% into an S&P 500, 10% to a value stock, 5% into the corporate bond, and 5% to money market. Instead, my recommendation for both the individual, for the 401k plan as well as for the retirement account that we're setting up for Madelyn, would be a 10% into the International Growth Fund, 10% International Value Fund, 20% into a small cap stock fund, 30% into the growth stock fund, and 30% into the value fund. As you probably already noticed, the S&P 500 is not listed in here. I've taken that out, but that will be invested later on into the trust, which we'll be talking about in a few minutes. The individual 401k and Madelyn's small business plan, which I will talk about in greater detail, for which one I recommend, will basically be invested mostly into the funds I just went over. The main reason is these are riskier assets. These assets will have larger swings both upward and downward for the next 32 years. As such, they will grow basically without any kind of, without having to pay any kind of taxes or cost basis for them. When these assets are invested, they will grow tax-free, and then at a later time, in 32 years, when they retire, they can start pulling these riskier assets out and thereby get a better rate of return than if they put them into, say, the trust or into another type of retirement asset. The Madelyn's retirement plan that I have selected will be a a SEP IRA. Now, the reason I chose the SEP IRA is for a number of reasons. One, the SEP IRA is easier to set up and easier to maintain for Madelyn. Because this is going to be a new company for Madelyn, and she's not sure if the company is viable, if she wants to continue with this company, if she wants to close it down, for example, even if she has employees. The SEP IRA will basically address all these. If she decides to set up this plan and decides to close them down at a later time, the SEP IRA is very easy to set up, very easy to close down, very easy to make contributions to, and also to set up for employees if she should need to. She has given me a figure of $90,000 that she projects will be her income from this new company. Now, that which I'll address later on, I'm taking as a little bit of a grain of salt for a brand new company. But as such, if we'll use her numbers that she has given me of $90,000, for example, she will be able to contribute 25% of that $90,000, which will be $22,500, which will go into the SEP IRA as a pre-tax contribution. I would recommend also that Frank would increase his individual 401k as much as possible, and that way he can deter some of the income tax that he would have to pay on his salary, and it will go in tax deferred. Now, we'll address the new trust account, which I've projected they should create. The trust account will be made up of two holdings. This will be from the estate that we're going to get from Madelyn's parents. The first one will be the S&P 500, which will be at 50% holdings, and the corporate bond, which will be at 50% holdings. The reason I have selected these two funds are the following. First of all, this gives them additional diversification that they already have with the international growth and value funds, the S&P, the small cap stocks, and the growth and value stocks. So they'll get additional protection in the market. If the market should go downward, the corporate bond and the S&P 500 will help protect them and stabilize their portfolio. Two, these funds will not grow as fastly as the assets they have in the individual 401k and the money that they have into the SEP IRA. Thereby, it will help with their cost basis and the amount of taxes they'll have to pay in the end. In addition to this trust, we will attach the money market for which they want to have their emergency fund, which means they'll be able to pull money into or out of that money market account. It will go into the S&P 500 or into the corporate bond, or if they should need to pull money out of that, it can go into the money market in the event they should have additional emergency needs that maybe will not be have enough assets in the money market account in that eventuality. Lastly, the money market account will have 6 months of savings. Half of that will go into the money market itself, the other half will go into CDs, and thereby help protect them in the event they need money. It'll be set up with their local bank account, and they can have the money wired into and out of the money market into that checking account should they need the money directly. I'd like to thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.